First get a chance to give a 30-second elevator pitch about what you're doing.
Okay.
And afterwards, I was really interested in what on your webpage you call your media neutrality.
Yes.
That how you're approaching your projects.
Yeah. I suppose what we've been interested in, the reason we sort of started the company was to look at how we're changing from a kind of, well, not changing, I think we've gone through a kind of rational information technology revolution, and we're starting to move into a more kind of emotional entertainment technology revolution. So we haven't really seen the impact of technologies in the same way as we've seen in publishing into television, for instance. So, and things like TV are predominantly film-based. So what's this kind of non-linear, crowdsourced, co-created world going to be like when we get into the world of television? A lot of what we do is about co-creation. So I think we see that there's a whole kind of culture of user-generated content, but that's all kind of exciting. But what we've been looking at more is this sort of creating systems where people can do very low barrier to entry, contribute something very little to create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. So a lot of that has sort of technology at the centre of it, and a lot of our work kind of is also there to attract and sustain communities who are contributing to that. So a lot of our clients particularly are very excited by social media platforms, and which are sort of are purely co-creation, because those things don't exist without the content that people contribute. But then really more and more of our role is to create these things that allow people to have something to talk about and have something to come together around.
Even though that I would say that we are now entering the third decade in nonlinear video and so on, it's still not matured yet.
No, well, I still think there's been technical barriers to that which are pretty much kind of eroded, and I think there's some conceptual stuff that needs to be done. I think when everybody talks about interactive narrative, they always talk about the forking path model, and there's lots of sort of fundamental problems with that. But there's definitely opportunity to look at sort of personalised film. I think the idea of the kind of television channel will disappear, and it'll be interesting to see what re-emerges out of that kind of oncoming revolution. I think advertising is very excited because the ability to target those that they deem relevant is really exciting for them, because at the moment they're using expensive elephant gun approaches. So, but then also from the web world, that kind of digital stuff has been so kind of focused on return on investment, which isn't been true on the more kind of, if you look at television commercials, they're all kind of emotional brand pieces that aren't looking directly to turn straight into kind of sales. So there's definitely going to be a merging between that more kind of rational world of the web and the emotional world of television. And then kind of emotional communication. So when we say emotional communication, that normally means film, but not necessarily. But it's something that drives us emotionally rather than trying to communicate about just a rational information. So that's really the summary of what we're trying to do, sort of.
I look at your portfolio. I feel it's very diverse. It spreads across a lot of different medias and a lot of different client types. As I understand, when you get a new assignment or when you're offered assignment, you have some kind of what you call a media neutral approach to it.
We try to be agnostic about the kind of, is television the right answer, is a website the right answer? So it's trying to look for the right answer. I think a lot of the problems, lots of difficulties when you have a company with lots of people is you have to sell what you can do. And luckily we've got relationships with lots of different types of people who are really sort of at the top end of their practice, so we can go and collaborate with a whole kind of wide range of people to sort of hopefully do the right thing on the right platform to solve the problem.
But how is the design process? How do you decide what platform you're going to use?
Well, it normally comes from, sometimes it's predetermined, sometimes it's it depends how early we get on in the process. The more it's just different platforms solve different problems and talk to different people. So it's really working out who you want to talk to and how you want to talk to them.
Okay, as you said, a lot of your work is centered around technology, and you have a really playful approach to technology. So what controls what?
Well, I think once again, like the Pet Shop Boys job was one of the simplest jobs I've ever done, because you could just paste a URL, get a black and white picture and put that in a video. Yeah. So at one level extreme, all we're doing is parasiting off the high-techness of all of the mobile phones. But then some jobs need a lot more kind of tech in terms of we've been working with people to write dynamic video compositing software, and so it's once again we don't necessarily have to take the most technological route to get the solution to the problem, but sometimes you have to.
For me, it was a huge leap when I could go from thumbnail video to full screen video on web pages. That was a defining moment in my career.
1992, seeing the first sort of QuickTime, and it was just like a postage stamp of video playing off a hard drive. Yeah. So it's quite a radical revolution that we've gone through.
The field is not matured yet, but it can be, because the technology is evolving so fast.
Yeah, but I also think there's all these kind of... I know I was talking to some guys who work on interactive television, and they were talking about the EPG, which is the Electronic Program Guide, and how that's perceived by younger people as a sort of broken interface, because it's like, why show me a button that I can't click on? If you know what I mean. And it does make you quite like, why is TV the way TV is? There's no, of course, it's lots of historical reasons why it is, but you do wonder if that's going to sort of make sense for a lot longer.
But I see also in this kind of interactive storytelling or nonlinear communication that there are lots of pitfalls. So do you feel in your work that there are something you can't do in nonlinear media or nonlinear narrative?
Well, I did my dissertation on sort of narrative versus game, and well, sort of story versus game, and I've definitely learned that trying to make stories interactive makes them worse rather than better. So I think stories fulfill a fundamental kind of human need. So I don't think the only competition is in terms of time. Yeah. It's not like video games are a very, very important market, and they coexist very happily with the kind of film world, but one wouldn't say trying to make a film game I've worked on a few of them, and they certainly disappointed, and they became the worst of both worlds rather than the best of both worlds.
It's better to put you into some kind of emotional immersion than actually do some engaging storytelling.
Yeah. Well, the guy I started, he's my old lecturer, and I started a company called Anti-Rom with. He put it very nicely in a paper, which he said, a game is something you believe is happening, and a story is something you believe has happened. So there's two different tenses to it. So I think, and there are two different ways to suspend disbelief. So when I'm playing a game, I believe it's unfolding in real time around me. Mm-hmm. And whatever story I watch, I believe it's predetermined, and I'm watching it. It's something that's happened that I'm just sort of witnessing.
Some of the works I've witnessed of you somehow needs a kind of explanation. You expect a lot of your audience to actually understand your work, or otherwise I'm just dumb. I don't know what.
Well, I think it's our kind of it's definitely my problem is that I'm too academic. Well, not academic, but I'm quite theoretical, and I get told off at work for not being human enough. But no, it's a balance of, but also I think some of the works, I think things like Lily Allen are very, very self-explanatory, exactly. But then things like Pet Shop Boys are kind of quite theoretical, challenging pieces of work, but I don't think there's...
You need to be told how to interpret it to, for example, understand that you're using those 2D barcodes in it.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely... But then we knew that would get enough press for it to be understood, so we kind of got in... we knew it would be explained, but not necessarily by the piece, and we wouldn't have to necessarily do the explanation. I watched a really good, there was a very good documentary on people who write scripts for sitcoms and comedies. And the guy said, one of his rules is, he said, I'd rather people be confused for 10 minutes than bored for 30 seconds. So there's nothing wrong with being a bit confusing, but I think it's a sin to be boring.
Oh, interesting, at least. Well, thank you for being here, and I'm looking forward for the speech. Thank you.